Hello everyone, and today we're going to be adding a nice little subtle detail to these aftermarket floor liners by installing a beautiful trim that matches the paint of the vehicle. So let's get started. Now when looking for this trim product, you're going to be looking for something that's called a door edge guard. Now it's just as the name implies, it's actually for a guard for your car doors. But you can also use it on your floor liners as well, just to give you a little bit of detail. And it's going to look something like this. And it does come in standard colors. It comes in black, kind of a light blue, or a blue that's more of an Atlas blue or a lightning blue. And then we have red and white. Now some suppliers also supply orange and maybe lime green and a few other subtle colors. However, they don't have them all. So anytime you want to do any of these projects, you may have to order just white or blue and then dye it to a specific color, which we're going to go over in this video. Now for this particular video, I'm going to do two sets. I'm going to do the blue at 16.4 feet, and then I'm going to do the white in 16.4 feet, just to show you the difference in the dyeing process. That way, when I take that same blue dye, it's going to go from blue to darker blue, and then white to a slight light blue. Now, something else to be aware of, when I do this project, this is going to be for a Mustang, so 16.4 feet is just enough to do the front floor mats. Now, if you want to do a bigger vehicle like a truck, or you want to do your rear floor liners, feel free to get the 32 feet. It's going to say you can get as much as you need, but for this project, all you need is 16.4 feet just for the front of your vehicle on a Ford Mustang. Alright, for our first step, we need to go ahead and weigh our parts. That way you know how much dye to use. So if you're only doing the front, it's about 300 grams for the front edge guards, which means you're going to need about 3 grams of dye. But since we're going to be doing 2 sets of edge guards, it's going to be about 630 grams, which is about 6 to 7 grams worth of dye. And this process is going to be the same for most plastics, acrylics, vinyls, and other synthetic materials. So now let's go ahead and grab our dye. This is iDye Poly, and it's going to be a blue. It comes with a color intensifier. And here's the dye packet. This is what we're going to be focusing on. This is what we need to get to about 6 to 7 grams. So it's about 15 grams right now, so it's going to be a little bit less than half. So I'm going to try my best to cut a little bit below the halfway point. Not too bad. Let me get a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to lift up the heavy side and see about putting that in a bag. And I'll try not to spill it. There we go. And it's about 7 grams right there, so I got lucky right off the bat. And then let's go ahead and lift up the scale, and I want to see about pouring this in very gently in about 6 quarts of boiling water. Now when dyeing this material, make sure you use a stainless steel pot, and don't use this pot for cooking, just keep it aside for other dyeing projects. And with the dye packet dropped in, let's go and grab some tongs, and these are kind of just cheap tongs. I just use it to mix. And we want to mix that in until it gets somewhat dissolved. There we go. And now let's go ahead and grab our color intensifier. Now this step is optional, but I went ahead and added it in anyway. So if you want to use the rest of your dye later on another project, you don't necessarily need the color intensifier. And make sure we get everything out of the packet. It's almost like a clear slimy liquid. Come on. There we go. And then we'll grab our tongs again and go ahead and mix it up. And then you want to go ahead and keep stirring it until it's completely dissolved. Now let's go ahead and grab our edge guards. I'm going to start with the blue one first. I'm going to stretch out just a little bit so we can get the dye in every part of it. So we'll drop in one of them, and then I'll grab the white one and do that one as well. And we'll just drop that in. We're going to let this boil for about 30 minutes. And during that 30 minutes, go ahead and grab your kitchen tongs and go ahead and stir it up about every 10 minutes. The whole idea is you want to get the dye to cover every part of your part surface. So while we're mixing, let's take a look and see how the parts look already. Now let's get a little bit better view. There we go. So we have the blue is darker blue, and then the white turned actually a light blue. That's very interesting. And after 30 minutes have passed, let's go and remove our door edge guards. And I'm going to try to do this very carefully without making too big of a mess. Come on. And it's going to drip a little bit, so just be prepared. This is almost like taking spaghetti out of the pot. So I'm going to try to put this on a plastic surface, that way I don't stain any of the surrounding areas. And with our edge guards cooled down, let's go ahead and grab a bucket of water, and this is laundry detergent, and the whole idea is we want to go wash off all that residual dye that's on these edge guards. You want to get these very clean before you put these in your vehicle. So I put a little bit of laundry detergent in there, mix it up, and then we'll go ahead and drop in our edge guards, and this is similar if you threw it in a washing machine, but we're going to do this in a bucket just because it's cleaner and it saves a little water. And then of course we'll go ahead and agitate about every 10 minutes. Again, the whole idea is just to clean off any residual dye that's still on these edge guards.
1 hour later.
And after an hour has passed, let's go ahead and remove the edge guards from our bucket. Now you can see that the water is going to be a blue tint. That's going to be expected because all that dye went ahead and washed off from your edge guards. That's going to be looking really good. And then let me go ahead and drain out that bucket. We'll grab a new one, and this is going to have fresh water in it. This is going to be slightly warm water or even room temperature. And we're going to drop our edge guards in. We just want to rinse off all that residual soap that's still on these edge guards just to get it as clean as possible.
1 hour later.
And then take it out and set it out to dry overnight.
The next day.
Alright, so let's take a look at our work. Now this was originally the white edge guards, and this was the blue. So you can see that it made the color slightly darker. This is what we started off with, and it almost matches what we started off with the original blue, which is actually kind of funny. But let's go ahead and grab our door edge guards, and we're going to compare it to the color of the car just to get an idea how it looks. And I'm going to choose a semi-shiny area of the car. So this is the white edge guard, this is the one that we turned blue, and it's a little bit light, it doesn't look too bad, but it's not really quite there. So let's compare it to the very dark blue, or the Kona Blue, and that looks a lot better. I kind of like that one. So let's go ahead and compare the two real quick. So we have our light one on the bottom and our dark one on top. So we're going to go with that dark one right there. So now we can move on to remove our WeatherTech floor liners, and these come right out. Most of them pop right out. And try not to hit the car. And then we'll move our way to our workstation area so we can set that down. So before we start installing these edge guards, let's go ahead and trim off the ends and flatten them off. So go ahead and grab your cutting pliers, and we're going to go ahead and create a straight edge. And well, I got a little bit of metal there. Let's go ahead and trim that off as well. There we go. So we have a nice flat edge to start with. And then let me zoom in here, and this is a good starting point right towards the back because it's going to be less of an eyesore when you see the seams. So I'm going to see about pressing this right on. And this is going on very easy, and we're going to continue this on for the whole edge of the floor liner. And now that we finally wrapped around, let's go and grab our cutting pliers, and we'll cut our end off. See if I can get it nice and flush. Alright, doesn't look too shabby. And let's see if I can press this together. It's fighting me just a little bit. Come on. Come on. You know, I may have made that a little too long. Let's take that off. We'll cut a little bit more off. It's always better to have too much than too little. There we go. Nice little flush cut. And, yep. And let's press these together. Oh, very nice. And then we'll check to make sure everything's pressed down. Looks good. Now let's go ahead and do a once over and see how it looks. And this came out looking really good. The color match is actually really nice, and it gives us a nice little subtle offset. It's not too much. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how it looks in the vehicle, because I'm kind of curious. So go ahead and pick this up, and I want to see about getting it into the Mustang without scratching anything or hitting anything. And there we go. See if we can throw that in there. Very nice. Ooh, yeah, that actually looks really good. That actually goes really nice with the color. Well, let's go ahead and do the driver's side next. And we repeated the exact same process on the driver's side as well, and this actually came out looking really good. Let's take a look. Oh man, yeah, that looks really nice. And check how much is left. Look at that little bit. We ordered the exact right amount. Let's go and see how it looks with both floor mats in the vehicle. Oh man, that looks really good with this Kona Blue. Yeah, that actually looks really nice. Gives a nice little offset. And I'm sure at night's even better with the nice glowing blue with the My Color feature. Yeah, that actually gives a nice little shine. I kind of like that. Let's take a look at passenger side. Yeah, that definitely looks very nice. Now, since this is a dark vehicle and this is a dark color, this may not give it the pop you're looking for. So let's go ahead and compare it to a lighter color vehicle. Let's take a look at this Twister Orange Mustang. Now, when you have an orange color on the interior and the exterior, it came out looking really good with these black mats. I think it looks really nice. Now, for those of you at home who do not have these basic colors, feel free to mix and match dyes and let me see how it turns out. I'm actually curious how they turn out for you. Now, I want to go ahead and share with you some of my lessons learned. On my very first experiment, I went ahead and ordered the same edge guards, and I did follow a very similar process. And I ordered one set of edge guards because I'm thinking, man, I want to get it right on the first try. So I went ahead and ordered the same length. I ordered the same dye, the iDye Poly, and same dye pack, same color intensifier. And here's where it went south. I threw the whole dye packet in the water, and I followed the exact same process I did earlier in the video. I went ahead and stirred it up. I went ahead and added in my color intensifier. Went ahead and stirred that up again to make sure it's all dissolved. Even dropped in my door edge guards with no issues at all. And even as an extra added experiment, I had a little bit of orange trim left over, and I even threw that in just to see what color that turns into. And after it boiled for a while, I took it out, and it came out looking a little darker than I expected, almost like a black color. But I was like, well, maybe after I wash it off, it'll start lightening up a little bit.
By sheer coincidence.
And after I installed it, maybe like 2 days later, I noticed the color was slightly dulling, and it's sticky. And as I put my hands on it, I started rubbing up against it, and I noticed some of the color was coming off. This is known as crocking. I learned something new. And this is not exactly good. This is usually due to the overdyeing process. So we're going to go ahead and remove this because I don't want to stain my carpet. And I want to show this to you real quick. After I took both of them out, look how much dye rubbed off on my hands. That is not good. So if you happen to overdye your product, I want to show you how to fix it. Let's go ahead and grab some OxiClean, some boiling water, and it's about a half a cup of OxiClean. This is called the scorching process. And the whole idea is we're going to get all that excess dye off of these edge guards. So let's go ahead and get all that OxiClean dissolved. Use your tongs, go ahead and stir it up. And at least this process smells pleasant. So now that everything's stirred up nicely, let's go ahead and grab our edge guards. And we're going to drop this in the boiling water, and we're going to let this boil for about 30 minutes. The whole idea is we want to get all that excess dye off. And don't worry about all that excess foam. That's going to go down once we throw in the microfiber cloth we have right here. Now this is a clean microfiber cloth that does have stains, but I'm throwing this in just so it can soak up all that excess dye. It's going to act like a magnet to all this dye on the edge guards. And similar to the process that we used earlier, we're going to go ahead and stir this up every 10 minutes using our kitchen tongs. So take a look at that. You see a nice little discoloration in the water. So 30 minutes has passed, so let's go and remove our edge guards from the water and take a look at them. And let's go and get the microfiber cloth out first. Now this is hot, so be very careful. Don't burn yourself. Look at that, it almost turned into like a gray color. That's a lot of dye. And let's see if I can get the edge guards out as well. And those actually look a lot better. They almost seem like a dark purple now. And let's go ahead and set those aside and let them cool down for a little bit. And now that we're done with the wash cycle, let's go and go with the rinse cycle. And this is going to be similar to the steps we did earlier. There's nothing really special here. We just want to make sure there's no residual OxiClean or soap left on these things. And after an hour has passed, we went ahead and took our edge guards out of the water and set them out to dry overnight. And after a few days have passed, we did check to see if there's any more crocking on these edge guards, and it looked like there's no more dye rubbing off. So this process does work beautifully. Well, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Also, if you did any custom dye colors, please send me some pictures. I'd love to see your work.